day.
To me, it's people who've had Asian backgrounds who now are living in America and claiming some sort of American identity.
I think for most people, it's staking out this really ambivalent position in between.
I grew up in a household that culture was very, very important, so it was hard to even integrate into like an American culture.
I think the hardest thing is that Eastern culture and like Western culture are just so different that it's so hard to actually find a blend that works well.
I think for me, being a first-generation Asian American, it definitely means having both parts of my culture evident in my personality and the way I hold myself.
You're immersed in American culture, and yet you can also share the Asian heritage you have.
There's this kind of uncomfortable middle position, right? Sometimes hanging more to the Asian side, sometimes bending more to the sort of mainstream American side.
Being Asian American means being aware of all the social inequalities that we face as a minority in the United States, but it also means having an identity that's comprised of two different cultures. And I think being Asian American, for me at least, is the search for common ground between the two different people that I am.
I guess each of us, whether us or our parents, coming to the U.S., we bring certain cultural values, certain diets, certain food, and these are things that we continue to share in the context of a new country. But I think it goes beyond that. Asian American is not just a particular racial identity.
Because we're so different from everyone else in the country, so we kind of just find each other and we come together and relate to one another in a way that no one else can really understand.
I think Asian Americans, like many people who are in the United States, people of color, have had to deal with racism and discrimination, because some of the issues that face Asian Americans, no matter what your origins are actually not seen that much by the greater public, who tend to see Asians as just Asians.
More recently, I guess, a frat held a Asian American themed party that was extremely offensive and racist.
If you look at Asian American history, which I think many people aren't that familiar with, they may not know that there were laws passed against Asian women immigrating to join their husbands. I know that when I grew up, in the history books that I studied when I was in high school, there was no mention of Asians at all. We were invisible at that time.
I think what unites Asian Americans is any case that reveals that we do still face a lot of oppression in the United States.
All too often, when society thinks about Asians, they think, he's a potential engineer, potential scientist, potential doctor. I mean, these are good fields, but I also feel that we should expand the horizons of what Asian Americans are capable of.
There's definitely a lot of pressures that do get heaped upon you just by virtue of being Asian American.
People kind of push us into this Asian American stereotype. It's this fact that we're struggling with the stereotype that brings us together.
I guess the big overarching stereotype is the model minority myth, which puts Asians at this elevated status above other minorities. It seems to give us an elevated status, but it's actually not, and it's as hindering as any other stereotype.
Oh, you're Asian, you're good at math, or you're Asian, you're good at science.
I get a lot of the, wow, you speak English really well. I think a lot of people assume that we're quiet, we're, studious, good at math, none of which I am.
Very passive and submissive, or there was this exotic image.
I'm a business major, and I know frequently, we're associated with being less assertive, less aggressive, and more kind of sitting there and being the worker rather than being a manager or a leader in a company.
A lot of the stereotypes that we face, or that I personally faced, were just due to ignorance.
We're not really given the opportunity to go beyond what everyone assumes that we are already doing. Sometimes I feel like I have to meet up with someone's expectations.
It's a pressure.
Yeah, and it's so stressful because it's like, oh, you didn't get into Harvard. It's like, I didn't even apply, kind of thing. And it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm not that smart or something like that. Sometimes people say like, oh, it's not that bad of a stereotype because they say like, oh yeah, you know, at least people think you're smart. But at the same time, it's frustrating.
It really portrays Asian Americans as these people who are obsessed with their grades, these people who are obsessed with doing well, these people who are successful, but that's so not it when Asian Americans are still oppressed to this day.
I hate chemistry, for example. Even when I'd go for like TA office hours, they would just kind of not really think that I needed help. They just thought I was there to like get to know them better as opposed to trying to get the help.
While you can definitely prove yourself as a person, how successful you are, I think the stereotype it does kind of hinder you and kind of holds you back.
And I think that it is important for people to actually realize what the stereotypes are and to figure out the ways in which we can actually help people resist those.
I think a lot of people try to lump us into this one category, you know, Asian Americans are this, but I feel like there's so much more to who we are.
Yes, we do play the part of the mono-minority. Yes, there are some social inequalities that we don't face that other minorities do face, but we still have to keep fighting.
The culture should be that you're defined by who you are as a human being.
What unites us is the fact that we're so unique. We all have something to show, something to present to the world, like give back to the world, I guess.
So one of the things I think will be interesting to see is what roles Asian Americans actually do play in society going forward. We see how some of these stereotypes are being dismantled.
There are Asians out there that are really like doing something that's different and that like making us like more encouraged to do something different and make a change.
The potential for success for this next generation of Asian American young people is unlimited.
One of the things that we'll be doing through things like the Jubilee Project is learning about how Asian Americans are actually breaking stereotypes actively through the media and trying to find more roles in the media, trying to find more roles in politics.
And when I meet like someone that's like out of these, away from this like model stereotypes, I guess, it's like I feel joy. Like I get happy when I meet these kind of people.
I think claiming our voice so that we can actually be contributing to governance and making policy is actually a very important thing.
I'm very much into politics, and I'm so excited to see Asian Americans in politics, and even a representative like from Brandeis. There's a student who graduated Brandeis. His name is Taki Chan, Representative Taki Chan. Like he's so strong in government. Like he's such an important role. He represents Asian Americans so well.
And so we actually have to be finding ways in which we can work together to learn more about each other, to learn more about one another's cultures, to see the ways in which we can actually join together.
It's about sort of overcoming a lot of odds to get to the point where we are today. You know, there's so much more that this community can do when we come together and believe in our skills and our power to make a difference in the world.
And change is something that's not gonna happen right away. So just because like it didn't happen right away does not mean that you should stop fighting. So definitely keep on fighting.
So we want to encourage people to live for something greater than themselves, and also to be fearless in their life, to pursue the things that they're interested in, and explore and learn and fail and and grow.
So I look forward to seeing what Brandeis Asian American students what role they're going to play taking leadership roles in the future, because I'm sure that they will be doing so.